Hello friends. Now let us discuss the second part of your unit number 6 mutual funds. The second part is a depository system. Actually, depository system, which is other than the mutual funds. The topic title is mutual funds, but it covers three different aspects. One is mutual fund, another one is depository system, and third one is factoring activities. So let us understand the concept of depository system. In this lecture series number 4, we will understand the basic concept of depository and all other related aspects, advantages and benefits of depository system. Let us understand what the depository system is. In the olden days, whenever the share certificate is transferred, they are maintained in the physical format. The shares are issued by the company to the investors, and investors used to hold the securities with them. The brokers used to buy the securities on behalf of the investors, and when the securities are received, it was transferred to the shareholders. And when the shareholders wanted to sell the securities, their shares, equity shares or debentures, they have to once again draw their paper and put it for the sale with the brokers. So like the physical movement of the shares or debentures used to happen in the olden days. But later on, there were a lot of problems connected with this. And when the advancement in the field of electronics took place, so this kind of a paper movement is being stopped. Now, the stock exchange markets are operated through electronically. Now the buying and selling of the shares happens on the computer screen, not in the Dalal Street or not in the trading wing of the stock exchange market. Earlier, the stock exchange market was physically available, and the brokers used to participate in that particular physical, this one, physical level. Shares were transferred physically from one person to another person. The brokers used to buy it and sell it, and all the brokers used to maintain the hard copy of the share certificates in the name of their clients, in the name of the investors. But now, when the electronic system came into existence, all that shares are converted into electronical way, and they are being dealt by the stock exchange authorities in an electronic way. So now, like a fund, how it transfers from one account to another account, like that, the shares are transferring from one account to another account. So buying and selling happens electronically. For this purpose, a convenience is being made to the investors that they need to open a dematerialized account with the depository system. So depositories are the what you call as organizations which maintains the investments or the records of the investments made by the investors in a electronical way. So now in our country, there are two important depository systems which widely take the care of all these electronically managing systems. Now let us understand what exactly the depository system is. Depository is a place where the financial securities are held in dematerialized format, that is in electronic form. It is the memory that has been maintained properly. It is responsible for maintenance of ownership records and facilitation of trading in dematerialized securities. There are two depositories which are functional in India. One is National Securities Depository Limited, NSDL, and Central Security Depository Limited, that is CDSL. Various depository participants linked to each one of them in India. All the details in the form of electronic records of the equity and debt are kept there. So this information which is gathered and kept in a electronical way is called a depository. It is called a depository. So the depository consists the electronically maintained records of the clients transactions or investors transactions, how much shares they hold, which company shares they hold, at what rate it is purchased, what is the face value of the shares. All these informations about the ownership of the security is maintained in the name of the client. So now the client should open an account, like how we open an account in the bank, like that he has to open an account with this depository called called dematerialized account. So now there is no materialized accounting system, that is a dematerialized. Dematerialized in the sense there is no physical existence of the share. Every information is in the form of records maintained electronically. This system is called as depository system. Now to provide facilitate this depository system, there are two organizations which are government organizations involved in the activity. So one is NSDL, that is National Securities Depository Limited, and Central Securities Depository System. These depository systems act like a bank. How banker receives the funds from you, and whenever you withdraw, how he credit debits your account and maintains the balances. In the same way, these depository systems work for the security transactions in the stock exchange markets, to the investors in the stock markets, or even for the mutual funds what they manage. So now these depository systems are operated through a depository participant. Depository participants are the agent middlemen, who are the financial institutions who take the part in providing the services to the investors to open a demat account, and transactions which are done through the demat accounts, all the transactions are recorded electronically. There is no any physical transfer of any of the shares in the hands of the clients. Now, a depository participant normally is an entity, normally a bank, who is the who can operate the demat account either with NSDL or with this Central Securities Depository, CDSL, NSDL and CDSL. Who will operate is the depository participant. So depository participants will make a settlement transactions and everything, and the final recording will be made with the depository systems. So now depositories are always taking information only from the depository participants who are connected with the investors. So whenever the demat account is opened in the name of any individual investor, so the the demat account will be opened through the depository participants. You have to take the services of the depository participants. Who are the depository participants? They are the stockbrokers, financial institutions who are registered as such with the SEBI under the subsection 1A of section 12 of the SEBI's Act. So section 1A, section 1A of section 12 of the SEBI Act talks about the registration. So here all the brokers, all the financial institutions who are working as a depository participants or brokers in the stock exchange markets must and should register with the SEBI. When they register with the SEBI, they get the registration number, and that registration number is always used for denoting their institution in the depository systems, in the transactions. And the clients who are opening an account with the NSDL, they should open through a particular depository participants, through a bank or through any of the financial institutions. As per the provisions of the Act, a deposit participant can offer depository related services only after obtaining a certificate of registration from SEBI. They act as a link between depository system and the investors. They are the intermediaries. You might have heard of the names such as ICICI, ICICI, Sher Khan, or Ralligare, or there are many number of depository participants. Now even SBI depository system is also available in the market. How depository works? Depository interacts with its clients or investors through its agents called depository participants, normally known as DPs. For any investor or a client to avail the services provided by the depository has to open a depository account known as a demat account. It is called as demat account with any of the depository participants. Now the investors have to open compulsory a demat account. What this demat account is? Demat account or dematerialized account converts the shares from the paper form into an electronic form. They are similar to passbooks offered by the banks, where you have opened an account. You can easily buy or sell shares of different companies using your demat account. All the transactions are entered into a entered into it like in the how it is entered in the bank passbooks. Now, before a few years back, when the physical shares were there with the clients, when they open a demat account, they have to surrender that physical shares to the depository participants, and depository participants used to preparing the demat account for them. And in the demat account, all the shares which are in the custody physically were credited. The demat account of that particular thing was credited, and the information was sent to the depository participants, depository systems like NSDL and CSDL when they are established. So immediately after, when the transaction is entered into, the shares are deposited in the name of the demat account of the client which he has opened. And when the client sells the shares, the depository demat account is debited with the amount of the shares that are being sold. And any of the payments are made, they all payments are backed up by the bank account compulsorily. In demat account, all transactions are routed through bank account or directly a check transactions. There is no physical payment of cash to purchase or physical to sell. The physical payment of cash is not made for the purchase of the shares, or physically cash is not received by the seller when he sells the securities. So therefore every transaction is being routed through bank account. So when you open a demat account should be linked with the specific bank account which the investors open. As and when he purchases the securities, the purchase value is directly debited to the bank account, and the purchased units are credited to the demat account, showing that the share certificates are entered in the demat account of the client. Whenever he checks the demat account, finds out the balances, those are the balances available in his custody, the shares which are available in his custody, which he can sell it at any point of time. When he sells, he has to raise the option of a sale in the stock exchange market through a broker. Then when the shares are sold out, the demat account of the client is debited with the shares which are sold. Automatically the balance in the hands of the demat account will reduce, and the amount received on the sale are directly credited to the bank account of the client. So this is how the demat account is functioning. Now, how to open a demat account? If at all the customer wants to avail the facility of demat account, he has to open an account with the depository participants compulsorily. In order to open a demat account, the interested candidate has to follow these guidelines or instructions. One is the interested candidate has to approach a depository participant. He cannot directly go to the depository system like NSDL or CSDL. He has to approach the depository participants, who may be a bank or any other non-banking financial organizations. So there are a list of the depository participants who are the members of the depository system, or who are the members of NSDL or CSDL. They will help you to open an account. These are registered with the National Securities Bank Limited or CSDL. They are the registered members of these two depository participants. The sole function, second point, the sole functions of the depository participant is to act as intermediary between the investors and the depository, that is NSDL or CSDL. Then the relationship manager from the depository participants that you have approached provides you an application form that you need to fill and deposit with them. Some documents like identity and address proofs are mandatory requirements and can't be bargained with. The interested candidates needs to produce an original PAN card during the process of the account opening. When the PAN card is mentioned, all that records are maintained in the PAN cards, any purchases or sales. So here the capital gain or any of the taxes you cannot evade. That is one more advantage of this demat account, because all transactions are routed through the PAN card number and also routed through the bank account which is attached with the demat account. So therefore the client cannot, the buyers or sellers or the investors cannot deceive anyone in terms of receipt of the shares and the prices. In olden days, before the demat account comes, when the share prices were sold at a higher rates in the market, but in the registration they used to show the less money of that particular transaction. So black money was generated. For example, if I sell the shares for 10,000 rupees, but I mention it only as a 2,500 as a transaction cost to reduce the cost, to reduce the what you call as tax on the transfer. So because transfer tax was based on the face value, but nowadays you cannot do that, because whatever the transactions you undertake are all recorded in the PAN cards and routed through the bank account. That is one. Once the application form is submitted, all the KYC informations are collected by the depository participants and it will be sent to the NSDL. NSDL will register that particular thing and issues a demat number. Once the document is over, the depository participants, who is basically a stockbroker firm or bank sub brokers, Share Khan, IIFL, ICICI, etc., demands a minimum check in your name in case you wanted to start with the purchase. Now the depository participants will ask for a little purchase and start the account with you. So when the application form is accepted for opening of a demat account through depository participants, the client who has applied, the customer who has applied, or the investor who has applied is issued a demat account, and the account is opened. But account has to be operated through, investor can operate account through depository participants. They cannot directly go to NSDL or CSDL for transaction records and all that. So everything has to be routed through the depository participants, who are the financial institutions providing the services of demat account. Now, what are the advantages of this demat account? Why this demat account is essential? The basic one is a demat account promises security in transactions, timely delivery of shares, reduced fraudulent transactions and all that, because demat account is more transparent. Earlier, when offline transactions were made, the parties involved would have undergone into some kinds of manipulation activities. Share certificates were manipulated, duplicate share certificates were brought in the market. So it was very difficult for the transactions to be effective in a normal way. But in demat, such kind of problems are not there. This is a basic advantage. As the paper use is limited in the process of the cost associated, the paper unit is not involved, so it reduces the cost. So there is no wastage of papers, and it is and there is no physical trading. Every trading is done through electronical systems through a software. The process has provided a mobility and ease of working from anywhere. So earlier, when the physical shares were transacted, every client or the investor has to go to a particular place for the transaction and pay the money and wait for the transaction to happen. But today it is not like that. Sitting at any corner of the country or any corner of the world, you can enter into buying and selling of securities and buy the securities and sell the securities. Not even buyers and sellers see each other in this transaction. Such a nice development of the transactions. Only transactions are affected, not physically involvement of any party in the system. Next, the process, the zero error in transfer settlements. There is no error in transfer settlement. How much quantity you have entered to sell, so much quantity are reduced from your account. How much money you have collected, in the prices are rated, and at what rate the share certificate is sold, that amount will directly come to the bank account of the sellers. So like that, every transaction is very transparent. No agent middleman can eat a commission or something else in the transfer and settlement of the buying and selling of the shares or debentures, that is the securities. The fifth one is reduced manpower in the process of delivery. No manpower is involved. Machines are involved, especially computer networking machines, and software is involved. But handling people are very less. Those who are the technicians involved in the activities and all that. So human effort is largely reduced. Because of the less human effort, less error is also there in these transactions. Last one is in addition, investors can invest in initial public offers or electronic trading trading functions of gold and carry out trading at a huge volumes that was not possible earlier. Now trading and buying and selling can be done in a huge way. Even gold market, or what call as the bullion market, or even the commodity market is also nowadays coming up in the demat system. So commodities like corns, grains, commodities like metals, commodities like share certificates and all that can be bought and sold through demat account. You need not physically own them. For example, gold bonds, when you buy, it is nothing but like a purchase of the gold. Gold is not in your custody, but its bond is there in your account, in your demat account, which is credited with. At any point of time, whenever the gold price increases, you can sell the bonds and liquidate the cash. It is as good as owning the gold in your hand, but physically gold is not there in your hand, but it is in the dematerialized format in your demat account. So like that, any kinds of metals like the silver or bronze or any kinds of metals that you can buy and sell, not physically but electronically. That is the advantage of demat account. What is the need for demat account depository system? Why it is required? Because first one is the bad delivery. There are more chances of bad deliveries. Bad deliveries refers to whenever the sales of securities have to apply. For example, 10 shares you offered for sale, but transaction may be effective only for 5 shares, and 5 shares are not transacted. So there was a difficulty in the paper settlements and all that, and wrong mistakes committed by the parties involved in the transactions were affected largely. So that is not possible in depository system. So bad delivery is one of the reasons that emerged the depository system in the country. Then fake certificates, that is duplicate certificates were brought, and deceiving activities were undertaken in the physical transactions. That is not there today because all the certificates are in the form of demat accounts. Loss of certificate in transit is also not there. Earlier, when the investors used to carry the physical certificates for transaction in the stock exchange markets, in between, if the certificates are lost, they usually lose the what you call as the assets like, and the issue of the fresh certificate was taking a lot of time. So that is what the problem, which is not there right now. Your demat account can be opened and operated on your computer screen, or even today on mobile screens from any corner of the country. Mutilation of certificates, the certificates which are kept in the treasury or lockers sometimes might have mutilated or destroyed due to termites and all that. And after that, there was no proof of investments, only that lot of people used to suffer this, because old pretty old, say, share certificates of 100 years back, which were invested in the Bank of England and all that, their share certificates were not available with them, with the investors, because of the utility, or that is when the generation passes out, they lost the certificates. That's why they could not be able to claim. But today it is not like that, because in that particular account, all that certificates are there available. In any type of generations comes in future, they can easily trace out their forefathers' investment certificates and all that, and operate accordingly. The next one is delays in transfer. Earlier, the settlement period was taking 15 days to a time. Sometimes it was carry forward to the next settlement periods if not cleared properly. So these problems were there, but today that is not the problem. Settlement happens within a fraction of second when you click the button of sale. When your share is purchased, immediately the transaction is recorded as settled. So that is what the fastness of this depository system. Long settlement cycles were there earlier. Now that was also taking a lot of pains and strains for the people to liquidate their investments, which are in the form of shares and all that. But today it is not like that. Any mutual fund units or any share certificates, bonds and all that, you can easily sell and liquidate it with a fraction of a week, within a fraction of a week. Then mismatch of signatures, delay in refund and remission of dividend, etc., are not required at all, because all transactions are handled through depository organizations like NSDL and CSTL. They will take care of all that, maintaining the accounts of the clients. So here we will end the discussions. In next class, we will see the further aspects connected with the depository system. So I thank the students for listening carefully. Please prepare well for the examination.